I am surprised by absolutely nothing these days, including this. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to hell. And once again, little reminder, I'm still running my 50% off sale on my tea website for Earl Grey, New York Breakfast, and Emerald Green, which expire at the end of November, although the Earl Grey expires in mid-November, so if you want some, now is the time to get it at 50% off because once it's gone, it's gone. Use the code We Don't Waste or check out some of the other flavors I have on the website, like my winter flavors, which everybody seems to really enjoy. They're very yummy. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's do the video. So our friend, our queen of Latinas, Rachel Zegler, is desperate to be relevant again. Or if we're being generous, I guess that she's just really looking to not be hated anymore. She seems like she wants to stage some sort of comeback that will turn a massive amount of public meltdown and a historic box office flop into a sort of redemption arc that's worthy of a Disney princess.
I feel they need some kindness.
Except the princess in question is one that she's spent literally years trying to publicly dismantle. And Disney has sort of been indicating and demonstrating that it's done with wokeism for the time being. So womp womp, Rachel. But putting that aside just for a moment, it's also the time of year right now where a bunch of news outlets and magazines and whatnot tell us who we are supposed to like and who we want to emulate. Over the last few years, plenty of outlets have highlighted trans-identified men as their women of the year. Imagine trying to explain this concept to someone 15 years ago.
What the hell is even that?
But this year, our mate Rachel Zegler's desire to be relevant has met Glamour magazine's desire to be relevant, I guess, as they named her one of their women of the year. Coincidentally, Glamour also followed suit this year and decided to name a bunch of trans-identified males as women of the year. Why is this a thing? I admittedly always find these situations somewhat weird because it seems like genuinely impactful people don't get selected. It always feels like a bunch of random people that Hollywood wants us to like, or someone who is really wanting to be relevant. Like Pedro Pascal. Is Rachel Zegler the female Pedro Pascal, but without all the creepy?
I would like you to show them to me, please. Oh, come on, please.
Yes, I think so, Sydney. That's a great observation. Wow, thank you. You're so smart and cool. Anyway, in late October 2025, Glamour magazine announced its Women of the Year class. On its cover page, it says it's highlighting trailblazers, rule breakers, visionaries, and champions who have defined each year. Okay, well, this ought to be good. The setup here is also meant to be about sisterhood and celebrating women who use their platform to uplift others.
Do you feel like sisterhood is enveloped by the drunk girl in the bathroom who tells you that you look really pretty and that you should break up with your boyfriend?
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
Which is kind of hilarious given that Zegler's entire platform so far has been to alienate people and attack them. Very, very uplifting, Glamour. Very uplifting. Zegler's written feature itself is incredibly boring, but it does try to further astroturf her career in the ways that you expect. The author paints Zegler as some sort of go-getting voice of the ages, someone who cares deeply about the world. In the piece, Zegler says that other actors need to speak out and normalize not having boundaries on political issues. She says, I think there's this idea that we as public figures can't have thoughts or feelings because we are like paper dolls to the majority of the public. She also says that it's water off a duck's back as far as the criticism goes with Snow White and many of the other things that she's done and said. Don't misunderstand. You can have thoughts and feelings. Just the majority of us don't care about them at all. Even the ones who largely agree with me, because I think you live in an ivory tower over there, friend. You live in your ivory tower in Tinseltown, and you probably struggle to relate to the rest of us. I'm not terribly interested in what you have to say. Really, most of us are asking that you just don't make things worse, which is incredibly easy to do if you can just stop talking.
With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah. Weird.
Weird.
The funniest thing to me with relation to these write-ups, and this write-up in particular, is that they're trying to position Rachel Zegler as some sort of like outspoken activist type, but in reality, she's best known for single-handedly tanking one of Disney's most expensive remakes, turning the Snow White press tour into a masterclass in self-sabotage, posting about freeing Palestine with the film's trailer drop, telling the world the original 1937 film was weird and dated, and, days after Donald Trump's re-election, wishing that his supporters never know peace. Like I said, very uplifting glamour.
You know, the irony is that there is actually a way to feel uplifted.
And it's knowing that you're protected when you're surfing the web, which is why today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Hi, you might know me as a shark from the ocean, but really, my passion is for VPNs. See, I'm a shark. Sydney, not the weird costume.
As the mascot of Surfshark VPN, you might expect me to be in the sea, eating fish or dolphins. But I'm actually much better at protecting you online by encrypting your internet activity and protecting you when you use public networks.
Or helping you bypass specific country restrictions so you can access the content you want to watch or even the things that you want to buy. That actually happens to me all the time when I try to watch Australian television and the web pages just don't load.
I know, that's why I'm here.
If you're like Sydney and you want to watch weird Australian shows, all you have to do is turn on your Surfshark VPN, set your location to an Australian server, and you can access all the weird Australian television that you want. It's not weird, but this also works when it comes to accessing other news, media, and even foreign Netflix content.
So instead of stalking the sea, I stalk the internet on your behalf.
In addition to all of that, I also offer 24/7 customer service and allow you to use your Surfshark account on unlimited devices. You can even pair your VPN with Surfshark Alert for instant breach notifications, like a privacy sidekick. So if you are ready to take advantage of Surfshark and their many tools and benefits, then click the link in the description or go to surfshark.com/Sydney. And don't forget to use code Sydney at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. The feature also came with a series of these sisterhood videos where Zegler talks about her inspirations and acting and whatnot. She was asked what her first act of feminism was, which, okay. She was also asked the first time that she felt represented in media, which, again, okay. Here's the thing. I know that there are plenty of creators on this platform and on other platforms who basically jump at any opportunity at all to talk about Rachel Zegler because she is so vehemently disliked. But for me, whenever I see write-ups like this, I can't help but think someone's agent put a call into someone and said, we need to get our girl back in the spotlight. That, or Glamour thought that they could ride some of the controversy train and really cash in on some of those hate views. Or maybe it's both, who's to say? Because I can't help but think that out of all of the women on the planet, out of all of the talented, amazing women who could be highlighted, Rachel Zegler deserves to be highlighted the least. Now, I am sure that there are a bunch of you who are thinking, okay, Sid, this write-up actually isn't super weird given that she was in a major Disney production. She is in a current production that is in London. She's on Broadway. Is it Broadway? Maybe it's Broadway. She's doing all these things in the acting world. Like, yeah, of course they're gonna highlight her because she's doing stuff. And ordinarily I would agree with you. I'd say, yeah, this is probably a nothing burger, but I find it interesting that this highlighty piece came about 10 days after a series of articles came out about Rachel Zegler, but in the weirdest way possible. Around mid-ish October, several outlets reported that Rachel Zegler had been cast to play Gloria Estefan in an upcoming biopic. If you don't know who that is, neither did I. Apparently she's a very popular musician and actress known in the 80s as the Queen of Latin Pop, as in the music, not Latin pop, like some ancient Roman soft drink. That joke was probably only funny to me, and maybe like 4 of you guys. And if you're one of those 4, I think you're really cool. Because who wouldn't like a Roman soda? Glad I got that out of my system. But look, this is great news. Rachel Zegler is gonna be in a new film. It's amazing. She's gonna be playing this woman, the soda pop woman. She's gonna be playing the Queen of Latin Pop. Amazing. Except, and here's the problem with this, and this was pointed out by the outlet The Park Place, this movie doesn't exist yet. if at all. It's not even in production. I don't even think it's written. And claims about this movie hinge solely on an interview Estefan gave to the Sun newspaper recently, where she describes how they're working out all the film's details and are waiting for a green light. But once they have that, the role is going to Zegler. But I think the Park Place really hit the nail on the head with their analysis of the situation. As writer Marvin Montanaro says, if this sounds like an attempt to attach a once bankable name to a film that's still in fantasy land, that's because it probably is. Zegler's career has been in free fall ever since Snow White turned into Disney's most avoidable train wreck of the decade, and Estefan's comments might be the first time anyone in Hollywood has even pretended to want to work with her since. It is a little depressing when you think about it that this person's kind of been relegated to the back of the bus, so to speak, so much so that even the slightest mention of her working in Hollywood again gets people really excited. But for a movie that's not written and does not yet exist. If that movie is going to exist at all, then the if here is doing a lot of heavy lifting. In another article they wrote about the situation, the outlet pointed out that in entertainment journalism, there is a recognized phenomenon of casting before funding, which is a practice intended to build hype or signal intention around a particular project. Without getting into the specifics or reading this verbatim, it basically generates publicity around the actors or actresses said to be involved. In this case, Rachel Zegler. I wonder why. And that's kind of what all of this feels like to me a little bit, an attempt to find relevance again. I've actually seen a bunch of this lately, and I saw a bunch more of it when I was making this video and researching for this video, that there are so many little graphics and whatnot that have been made that say, oh, Rachel Zegler is gonna work with Disney again, Rachel Zegler is gonna do this and that and blah, 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 but absolutely none of it has come to fruition. I'm sorry if you can hear the noise in the background. Someone has decided to mow his lawn. Why couldn't you wait until later, Jerry? Why are you doing this now? I thought that this was the case too back in March 2025 when Vanity Fair ran a piece insisting Rachel Zegler's box office failure kind of made her an icon, despite the fact that she's, you know, widely disliked. And I think that's sort of the crux of this. Relevancy isn't just about being seen, it's also about being wanted. And right now, Zegler is the furthest thing from wanted. She's here telling us how unbothered she is while hoping anyone will hand her a microphone. And I think the reality is that she absolutely had the ability to win people and Hollywood over. Zegler snapped up her role in West Side Story in 2021, then the Hunger Games film in 2023. What is it? A Ballad of Songbirds and fish snakes, I don't know. And then Snow White also in 2021-ish, although obviously this came out in 2025. And based on this trajectory, she should have gotten more roles and continued on in Hollywood, but it was like she became radioactive in the film industry. And after Snow White was buried 6 feet under with a headstone that reads, "Here lies $270 million," and a press tour that never should have gone ahead, that radioactivity got even worse, if that's possible. She sort of Chernobyled herself, except rather than a bunch of mangled humans, it's just her career. If I'm being real, I actually think a lot of this does go beyond all the drama surrounding Snow White, some of which absolutely was her fault, but some of it wasn't. But most of it was. But I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that this girl boss celebrity era is coming to an end, which doesn't bode very well for someone like Zegler, who has continually tried to position herself as some kind of Gen Z Che Guevara. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm not very good at Spanish. And I guess in some ways it's also the fault of everybody around her, given that they're probably encouraging her to be this way and to exhibit this kind of behavior. And she probably genuinely does believe in what she is saying. I really do feel quite bad for all of these little Gen Zers. So full of optimism for change, until life kicks them in the face. Life does not in fact give you lemons. It gives you complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Maybe it's just me, but I do think that most other people have moved on from wanting to be lectured by celebrities, if they ever did in the first place. And it seems that Hollywood is following social trends it sees on the horizon. And one of the biggest trends is fatigue with the politicization of absolutely everything. I feel like I mispronounced politicization. politicization. That sounds weird. Viewers are routinely demonstrating that they want less politics and less leftism. And maybe Zegla and her team don't get that yet, and that's why they're trying to stage a comeback using these exact tactics. Except it's not really a comeback if no one's actually asking you to come back. It's just showing up uninvited. Please get out of my house. And this might actually be the weirdest part. After Snow White fell in a heap and everything was not so great and quite hostile and whatnot, Rachel Zegler, instead of being quiet, decided to double down. She didn't reflect, she didn't take a break, she just got loud during a period of time when people want to be preached to a whole lot less, so do with that what you will. The bottom line here is that I think over the next year or so maybe, Rachel Zegler is going to make more and more attempts to get back into the spotlight and get back into Hollywood's good graces, and I think we're going to see that fail over and over again. Hollywood seems finally to be moving away from the kind of actress that she wants to be, and I'm not so sure that she's going to be able to improve and adapt. And instead, in the end, I think that she will basically ensure that she fades into relative obscurity. Now on that note, and before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder, check out Surfshark using the link in the description. I've actually used Surfshark for years. They have been a friend of the channel for years. So if you are looking for a VPN that does some cool stuff, Surfshark is the VPN for you. Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Are you on my side of this issue where you think that these hyper-political actors and actresses are going to basically fade into obscurity in the coming years as people move away from wanting to be lectured by these kinds of people? Do you think that this will never change and they'll always be popular and people will always want to hear from these kinds of folks? What do you think of Hollywood basically Xing out Rachel Zegler? Do you think that that was a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What do you think of this bizarre glamour write-up that kind of came out of nowhere? Do you think that it's trying to make her seem like some sort of activist type? Do you think that the sisterhood angle is completely bizarre? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here and you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel as well as leaving this video a like and a comment because I do read the majority of them and I like hearing your feedback. Of course, as I always say, I hope you little chickadee people stay safe and well and make good choices, and I will see your wonderful little chickadee faces in the next video.
You can't hold anymore. You can't hold anymore. You can't carry anymore.
We've got this from the Post-Millennial. Former Coast Guard lieutenant, self-identified Antifa member found not guilty of soliciting an assassination of Trump. Now, the issue, you may be asking yourself, what did he do? They say, an affidavit accused Stinson of calling for the assassination of Trump repeatedly since 2020. One post saying the orange man must go at any cost. Another said, you see Trump drowning, what are you doing? He said that he would feel like he would hit him in the head with an oar. He says he wants instead, I want same of him. In response to another user's post, same month, he wrote, somebody ought to do more than sue the orange MF's SS, and it involves a rifle and a scope, but I can't talk about it here. I'd be willing to pitch in $100 for a contract. We could solve the solvable part of this problem in a crack. I'll drive. I'm willing to drive. He needs... Okay, he kept saying it over and over again. So it's a clear crime.
That's pretty clear, man.
Yes, but the problem is we live in... We are in a civil war. I mean, again, I say that in the figurative sense. We are clearly in a period of civil strife with factions. And when they brought this case, it took them 2 hours to acquit the guy for calling for the murder of Donald Trump. Have fun with where we're going next. Because Jennifer, what's her name? Jennifer Welch from I've Had It podcast is getting tons of attention right now because she said if Democrats don't get on board with them murdering or wanting to murder conservatives, the Democrats will get the same treatment, implying they will kill the Democrats unless Democrats get on board with killing conservatives. That's where we're at. She's not been banned. She's allowed to keep doing her podcast, and she's wealthy because of it. So if we can't criminally prosecute a guy who said stuff like this, then I guess, guys, order your 25-year beans now.
Yeah, well, take it further. You know, was it Jay Jones that wrote the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's running for office.
And his is I want to murder Republicans and babies and their you.
If this guy wins,
well, the whole party wants to murder babies, right? But like him in particular, he wanted to kill kids.
But and he's running for office.
Yeah, and he only lost like 3 points when that got exposed. Now, Miara's, I believe, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, is expected to win in the prediction markets. We don't know for sure, but we're 5 minutes from Virginia. We're in the it's technically the tri-state, but Pennsylvania is a half-an-hour drive, so you can get anywhere pretty quickly. You drive down any one of these roads into Virginia, and you will see signs for Jay Jones on all the houses.
Yeah,
they don't care, and I want to make sure this is clear with a story like this. My wife was asking me about the Trump 34 felony conviction because we did this debate last Friday with Brian Shapiro, and it's gone massively viral. I had no idea it would, but I'm getting hit up by tons of people being like, oh, you roasted Dick. I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm sure he's got clips of me, and the left is sharing those as well. So my wife asked me, well, what's Trump accused of doing? And I said, falsification of business records in furtherance of a crime. And she said, did Trump commit any crime? No, he did not. Because the accusation in that case is that Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, believed a insinuation from Trump's CFO was the order to pay Stormy Daniels. Did Trump ever tell you to do it? No, he did not. Did Trump ever tell you to conceal anything? No, he didn't. But I knew he wanted to. Trump's guilty. That's what they did. On top of that, it's the first time in history, and we clarified this yesterday. Fact check. I was mistaken. It is not the first time they've used that law, 175, what is it, 175.0, I think it is, 1750.10. I thought it was the first time they ever used it without an underlying charge. That is incorrect. It's the first time they've ever done it without a clearly spelled out crime in the indictment, meaning in every instance New York has charged someone with falsification of business records and furtherance of a crime. They required unanimity among the jurors as to the crime intended to be committed, spelled out in the indictment, meaning proven beyond a reasonable doubt. With Trump, they said,
pick it later.
Yeah, pick it later and you figure it out, which has never been done before.
That's exactly what they did.
So she asked me, has Trump, she said, okay, hold on. I understand that, but what did Trump do? Like, he didn't do anything, even according to the charge. And then she asked, then how did he get convicted? Because New York is D plus 30. Mm-hmm. That means any jury will convict any Trump supporter or conservative. We saw this with J6ers when judges wouldn't let them bring in video evidence that was exculpatory. The judge was like, no, that come and like, but this proves I'm innocent. The judge is like, don't care.
That's not a jury of your peers.
It's certainly not. And now that we have two different countries occupying the same territory, this man who clearly called for the murder of Trump, they let him go.
Yep.
In Virginia, unsurprising.
Well, and so I know you were talking about Jay Jones and how he isn't expected to win the race anymore, but the fact that that's even a question at all.
The fact that he's running.
Yeah, the fact that he's still running, that his party didn't go, you know what, let's find someone who isn't talking about killing children in their DMs is like probably an indication that either they know the voters don't care or they can't find anyone. Like, they can't find anyone who doesn't want children dead.
So this is actually pretty amazing. Wow. So Kalshi has the prediction market. Will Jay Jones drop out of the Virginia Attorney General race? No, he won't. At this point, it's a 1%. And if we actually look at the Attorney General race, he's still got a 33% chance in the prediction market. That is insane to me, that a man could say that his rival's children should be murdered, and if he had the choice, he would shoot his Republican rival twice in the head. That's what he said in these texts. Yep. And they're like, give him it's 2-1 that he loses. So
it's not that 33.
But I will say this first.
Well, and didn't he call too? Didn't he make a phone call too? After?
But we didn't see. We don't know what was in the phone call. We just know that there were texts after the fact. So so I do need to say this. I'm legally required to say shout out to Kalshi for sponsoring the show, and I really do appreciate it. I also would like to point out just before you jump in, Seamus, should Jay Jones win, the point I was making about Trump and his convictions and this guy being let go. I don't know that I can drive through Virginia. I'll get pulled over by some commie cop, and he's going to be like, you got the improper turn signals there, buddy. And then I'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about because I did it right. He's like, well, let's take a, whoa, I smell drugs out of the vehicle. Then he's going to say, look what I found. And it's going to be every jury in Virginia that they're going to put together is going to be like, he's a Trump supporter, lock him up.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
If Jay Jones wins, it's bad enough in Virginia they acquitted a guy who literally was calling for the assassination of Trump and saying he wanted to do it, and they let him go. If this AG gets in, yeah, we're headed down a very, very obvious and dark path.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I think that, again, like I said, the fact that they didn't replace him, they didn't pull him out of the race, he didn't step down, this wasn't that much of a scandal for them, and then they tried to, like, wave a group chat in our face a couple days later as if that was equally bad and would distract us from this. It was so transparent, it was so obvious, and it was so indicative of the major flaw with the Democratic Party, which is that, and I mean this truly, sincerely, it's not hyperbole, they literally hate innocent life. This is why abortion is the cornerstone of their entire platform. They hate innocence in general. That's why they always want to push grooming. They want these drag queens to be reading in front of children. They always push as much degeneracy as they possibly can because they hate being reminded that there's more to the world than their own hideousness. And so when someone like Jay Jones says, I hope their children die, he really means that.
I wonder
he really
if,
means that. And I got to say this too. We've all gotten angry over politics, right? But I have never at any point been so angry about politics that I wanted someone else's kid to die, because that doesn't come from a place of anger, it comes from a place of sickness.
It doesn't, agreed. Wanting someone else's child to be murdered doesn't solve any of your problems. So why would anyone want that to happen? If I had a problem with Seamus, like, let's say, for instance, he stole a very rare spoon of mine that was once belonged to a grandmother, and I was mad at him, and he denied it, and I said, I'm so mad at you, Seamus, you have wronged me. Why would I hope for his children? That's not going to bring my spoon back.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, nothing apparently will bring my spoon back.
Because there's something about
it's a form of tribalness. It's a form of tribalness to carry it from generation to generation, which is a big problem that we are, suffering here in our country.
Well, Seamus, since you brought up the YR's group chat scandal that broke and got way more attention for whatever reason, it also points out a fatal flaw in the Republican Party, because they caved immediately and all of these guys got fired and condemned publicly.
Were they all fired?
And we've
This is
learned
why I don't like
nothing.
Republicans.
I think that pretty much all of those men got fired. Yes.
I'm going to make a new party, and it's going to be called
the Schmeep Republicans.
Republicans. No, I was going to say it's the bad boys and, what is it, the bad dude?
The bad dude who runs a bunch of bad boys.
That's what I was going to say, the bad dude who runs a bunch of bad boys.
And you know that, I don't know if it was ever proven that Gavin Wax was the one responsible for leaking it, but he didn't face any consequences.
Well, we don't know who did what, but all I know is they're all a bunch of whiny babies, and the Republican Party is just so weak.
Cooked.
Yeah, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The one thing I truly respect the Democrats for is how unscrupulous they are in the face of, like, it's amazing because I look at some of these podcasts, like that woman, Jennifer Welch or whatever her name is, where she's like, get on board with killing conservatives. And I'm like, man, she's chiseled and just beaten herself so mercilessly that all that is left of her heart is a withered husk of scar tissue. It takes a lot of work to get there. I am impressed with how people like Adam Schiff can just, like, crazy eye you at the camera and lie, and they feel nothing. That takes a tremendous guts
He's
to
an
be as
odd
evil
man.
as they are.
We don't need to be evil to win. We just need to take our own side.
Yeah, no, it's true.
We don't have to be like them.
Just enforce the laws we already have.
Enforce the law. Take your own side. Don't cancel.
Well, look, we
over
tried.
nothing.
We tried. He got let go. Mm-hmm. So that's my point. The conversation we had with Aaron McIntyre last week is the sovereign is he who makes the exemptions. And
is the case over, or are they going to take it up?
No, that's it. He's acquitted.
They won't
that's
go.
it. You
Yep.
can't double jeopardy. You can't bring it back.
I didn't know if it was going to go to a higher court or.
Hey, you can't. I believe that would be double jeopardy. He's been found not guilty. They can't bring it back. So I hope you guys have prepared for the worst while you hope for the best, because I've been saying that these people should get arrested, and silly me, they did arrest a guy, they did charge him, and a jury let him go. Mm-hmm. So I'll say it again, and shout out to Will Chamberlain, because this is his argument. A society that tolerates the veneration of assassins and celebrates assassinations is a society that has opened the door to civil war. And that's why he was saying these people should be banned from social media. And I said, you know what? I didn't agree at first. Now I completely agree. The people that are online celebrating assassinations and calling for more should be insta-banned. They're not going to be.
More than banned.
So I can tell you this. I really do feel like the prediction of what's to come is obvious, and I hope I'm completely wrong. Unfortunately for me, I kind of remember all the shows I've done over the past several years where I've warned the escalation was coming, and it did. And so I can only assume at this point I'm probably right. So I'll be digging a hole starting tomorrow. Seamus, if you want to help out.
Yeah, why not?
Guys love digging holes, but we're going to dig it real deep. Then we're going to build a 30-foot deep underground bunker.
You can't tell them about this. They can't know.
They won't know where it
They
is.
don't know about this.
How are they going to find it?
Stop talking about it.
You gotta all right,
Use the
we'll
really
find
soft,
a good spot.
terrible voice and don't talk about it.
Where are we going to build it? Just whisper, and we're going to build it in Harper's Ferry. Okay, perfect. Just right in the... Are we able to dig there? We have to call if there's cable lines or something. I don't want to cut through anything. No, we need the cable lines.
You got to get a dig.
How are we going to play PlayStation?
I'm
saying we don't want to cut them when we dig on accident. Nah, you just damage them. You just... What you do is you cut your finger open, and you put a small neodymium magnet in it and stitch it up, and that allows you to feel where the electrical lines are.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, old wives' trick, old wives' tale.
This is actually true. I'm not making this up.
Why can't we see this as the beginning of trying to use the law to incarcerate and punish people who do say things online? Maybe this is the beginning of it. I know it didn't work. But
I don't think it matters because
we gotta respect free speech, though. I mean, where do you start, right? You want to start somewhere.
Well, I think explicit calls to violence.
The issue is, several years ago, I was involved in a copyright issue around music, and I called. I was speaking with two different lawyers, and they basically said, "Okay, you probably have a case. Let's venue is important. If you try this case or file this case in a Democrat jurisdiction, you'll lose in 2 seconds." And I said, "What does this have to do?" Well, you're a Trump supporter.
Mm-hmm.
You will bring it before a judge. They're going to say, "Trump supporter, throw it out." Side with the corporation in 2 seconds. So they said we should file this in a heavy Trump district where they're going to side with you for being a Trump supporter. And I was like, "But this is about music." And they were like, "And?" This is not the way the courts work right now. And venue selection has become one of the most important things. This guy was found not guilty because he's charged in Virginia, tried by a jury of his peers who thought that what he did was just. So when you have Democrats in New York say it doesn't matter if you can prove Trump did something wrong, Trump is so evil he must be stopped, this is heading in one direction.
That's right.
So I'll stress this too, for all these conservatives that think there's a big conspiracy in the elections with cheating, the one thing they really need to consider is that you do not need a conspiracy for a cult. This is called a standalone complex. One of the theories about 2020 was that all of these Democrats working in polling locations or doing signature verification did not need to be told what to do. They hated Trump so much that they would be like, a Trump vote? I can't read that signature garbage. A Biden vote? Close enough. Throw it in. If you do that 10,000 times across the country, Trump can't win. So for all the, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying you can't control for these things. If we do start going after people for this, let's take a look at Kat Abu Ghazala. She's literally on video putting her hands, it appears, well, she's blocking the police vehicle. I don't know if her hands are literally on it, but her body's up against it. And that's what she's charged with, obstruction. If they bring in an Illinois jury, she will be acquitted, and then the jury will offer her government money. They're going to be like, what more can we do for you, criminal? Because we don't care. You're opposed to Trump, nothing you do is illegal.
I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is that you have to start somewhere because, just banning people arbitrarily off the internet could also get really wily.
Arbitrarily?
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be arbitrary because there's not a court case, right? You're just saying, I don't like that. And if the law...
But banning is not a criminal action, so you don't need a court case to ban someone.
Right, so then it would be arbitrary because there wouldn't be a hearing.
That's not arbitrary.
Well, sure it would be if it's just left up to... Who is it left up to?
The company that runs X or YouTube.
Right, so I agree with you in that I wouldn't say those things.
Glorification of murder is a bannable offense on YouTube, and YouTube's not banning this woman who said to kill Charlie.
And it should be banned.
So she should get banned for it.
But people write things, and they are not banned, and nothing happens.
And they should be.
Like Jay Jones. So my point is...
Well, he texted someone his personal opinion. That's allowed, but he should not be in a political race.
In any case, though, they went to court. Now, they lost, and I get it, but they did go to court. And I think it's really important to say that they went to court. They lost. And they lost
This is a crime.
It is a crime, and they lost because of the judges. I agree with you.
As long
as we, Or the jury and the judge? Was it a jury trial?
It was a jury trial, and they deliberated for 2 hours and then acquitted him.
Well, in Virginia, they probably would have lost with the judge too. I mean, the judges
Perhaps.
are also bad. I mean, the point is though that they did prosecute him, and I think it's really important that they do prosecute crimes when they happen, regardless of what the outcome might be. We can't stop prosecuting because there's no way to win.
Of course.
That's my point.
We should go after more people. My point is that we're going to see more acquittals, and we are actually, I wouldn't be surprised if overt acts of terror end up getting acquitted. That you'll get some Antifa guy. I mean, look at Portland arresting conservatives. The only reason Portland actually shut down the Antifa protests was because Trump won in the Ninth Circuit and was going to send in the National Guard. And they don't want the National Guard to come in because then that gives Trump more control and authority in any capacity in the city. So they said, take out Antifa, and then we can argue to the courts he can't send the National Guard in now because there's no longer a criminal presence.
A lot of people really liked the National Guard when it was in LA, by the way.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think
It was great. Yeah.
I think the issue
Very
is
good. Really helpful.
What were people? Yeah, I'm curious what people on the ground were actually saying, because obviously all the press was going to show us is that everyone thought it was fascism and Trump is bad because he's orange.
Well, what had happened after the fires burned is the National Guard came with FEMA, and so we had a lot of National Guard right after the fires. And they were parked everywhere, and they protected everything, and they were very nice to people. And because it was the fires, everybody loved having them there. And then when they left, there was so much looting and so many problems that everybody that was, experienced having them there was like, can we get them back? So when the National Guard came for the rioting, it was like, bring them, because it's obviously the people downtown that were looting and rioting didn't want them there. But I can tell you right now, most people in Los Angeles were really relieved they were there.
I just don't understand how people living in LA have not been radicalized by their experiences and still vote for this.
That's a really good question. I'm working on a documentary. It's called Mayors Matter, and I'm visiting all 52 mayors in the state that have a fairly decent mayoral position. And so far, I've interviewed several. And the majority of the mayors that I've interviewed, surprisingly, both Democrat and Republican, number one priority on their list is safety in their streets, police and safety. So things are quite different when you really break it down and you talk to mayors of smaller cities. They also don't want to, house homeless people. They're like, look, we shouldn't have this problem, and they shouldn't be dropping them off in our city. We do, and we can only have so many beds, and those beds are transitional. They can't be just living here. We're not just going to create housing for them. So it's very interesting how things really are when you start talking to the mayors of the cities.
The homeless don't even want housing. That's the dumbest thing that people say about homelessness, is that they're in need of or desire housing.
Well, also, we have anti-camping rules that, they kind of lifted during COVID because of the desperation to find places for people outside. But once you put the anti-camping rules back in place, people can't loiter anymore. So they move to places that they can, like a campsite, and then it's every 3 days they got to move or something like that. Point being, there's a way around it that you can do it legally. And if you talk to the mayors from all the cities, they don't have the same feeling that you see on the news where they just don't want anybody there. They don't want chaos. None of us want it. I don't want it. And I live in the Palisades, So.
Yeah, that should, in theory, transcend politics if politics were just a matter of human affairs. But I think it is very sad that we're at the point where I think, in the past, people maybe had loftier ambitions for government about the problems it could solve. And now we're like, please, just can I just leave my bike somewhere locked and come back and it's still there, right? Can I please not have my window smashed in? Can I please not have stuff broken? Can I not have my store broken into and have stuff stolen? Rule of law has been completely disrespected and disregarded, and it's become a topic of political debate, even though, as you said, all the mayors will actually say when it comes down to it, yes, this is the most important thing to me, we have to make sure we have this. When it comes to their political rhetoric, it unfortunately isn't the case.
I think that there might be some like that, but I think the majority of mayors, both Democrat and Republican, want safe communities for the kids, and they'll do anything to get it. They'll work really hard at it. We spend just on the executive branch of government $40 billion a year on 275,000 people working for the state. Just think about that.
Yeah.
We've only got 17.5 million people paying taxes. And that doesn't include all the people in all those cities. That's another 250,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 500,000 people working in a state with 17.5 million people paying taxes. It's just not sustainable. So if you sit and talk to people and you really say, look, what's really important to you, without all the rhetoric, without all of the, Trump this and Gavin and their big fight, because Gavin Newsom has ruined any chance of a relationship with the Trump administration. He's completely torpedoed
100%.
it.
There's zero chance.
So California's not in the conversation, and the people that are good in California that really want to see, things better in California, like me, coming out and talking to EPA and saying, hey, will you help us clean up California? Because the EPA can step over, any California legislation. They can step right in. So for me, I'm just going to, do my best to circumvent the Newsom administration and ask for help because we need it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.
Ten years ago, in 2015, we Ukrainians were introduced to the TV series Servant of the People, starring Vladimir Zelensky as a humble school teacher who unexpectedly becomes president of Ukraine. The show became a huge hit here.
Hello?
Good morning, Mr. Koloborochka. Can I connect you with Angela Merkel?
Yes, you can connect.
Hello. My congratulations. We decided to take your country to the European Union.
Oh, fuck! Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wow! Oh, I'm so happy.
He's young, handsome and funny. He seems to say all the right things and truly cares about Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians believed in that story, and when Zelensky launched his real presidential campaign, he won over 70% of the vote across the country. In 2019, right when Zelensky was running for president, a massive data leak reached journalists from Washington, D.C. and later brought reporters from all over the world. The leaked documents became known as the Pandora Papers, a project that reveals how politicians, businessmen, and even criminals across the globe use offshore companies to hide their wealth and avoid taxes. The carefully crafted image of Zelensky as a guy next door, the servant of the people, starts to fall apart as these documents show how he built a very complicated web of offshore companies to run his media business in Ukraine many years before he became president.
For years, some of the world's richest people have hidden their wealth in prominent offshore tax havens in places like the Bahamas or Belize. Now, a new investigation reveals the involvement that the United States and prominent world leaders have in the secretive world.
There are 1,001 different ways to describe a tax haven. It's generally considered as a country or a jurisdiction
where you can put your money and avoid paying taxes where you made your money.
A team of reporters from the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, The Washington Post, and hundreds of reporters around the world unearthed secrets from millions of documents. The Pandora Papers show how the ultra-rich and powerful move their money around the globe. It is the largest collaboration of journalists ever organized by the ICIJ.
We have emails, passport copies, bank statements that show how presidents, kings, princesses, billionaires, and criminals hide and move money.
So guys, just like normal people, the rich and powerful don't really enjoy paying taxes, but unlike most of us, they can actually do something about it. Zelensky's media business, a production studio called Kvartal 95, was built here in Ukraine, but hidden behind a network of offshore companies. Why would a future president need that? Well, that's the question the Pandora Papers journalists try to answer, and I will share with you. The leaked documents were investigated by major international groups: International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, and the Ukrainian outlet Slidstvo Info. In this video, I'll be using information from their official website, so anyone who wants to verify it can do so. It's all publicly available. I'll also share the links below. According to the Pandora Papers, Zelensky owned a stake in a shell company in the British Virgin Islands called Maltex Multi-Capital Corp. Here is a simplified view of how his business was structured. The Ukrainian company Kvartal 95 produced TV content, including the popular show Servant of the People, and paid taxes in Ukraine. However, Kvartal sold some of its intellectual property to an offshore holding Maltex. According to the Pandora Papers, Maltex was equally owned by Zelensky, Sergei Shefir, Boris Shefir, and Andrei Yakovlev. The Shefir brothers are longtime friends and creative partners of Zelensky, going back to their hometown of Kryvyi Rog. Another offshore company in the same network served as the nominee owner of Maltex. It was linked to Ivan Bakanov, Zelensky's childhood friend and business partner from his hometown. In 2019, after becoming president, Zelensky appointed Bakanov as deputy head of Ukraine's security service. He was in charge of fighting corruption. Later the same year, Bakanov became head of the entire agency. At the same time, Sergei Shefir, a co-owner of Maltex, became Zelensky's first assistant in the presidential office. From what I gather, owning or using a shell company isn't illegal in itself, but there are some questions, a lot of questions, when people who represent us, leaders of countries, do it, right? Because they want us to pay taxes, they want us to be transparent about our incomes. And with Zelensky, that's especially interesting because he built his presidential campaign on this image of a president of the people. And he openly spoke about this need for transparency and ill of corruption. Yet the Pandora Papers investigation found that he never ever disclosed in any of his public asset declarations any ties with this shell company, Maltex. And that, of course, raises a lot of questions about his own transparency. One of the key participants for the Pandora Papers investigation, Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, says that during the heat of the presidential campaign, Zelensky transferred his 25% stake in Maltex to Sergei Shefir to distance himself from the offshore network. Financial crime experts who worked on the leaked documents said the share transfer was possibly a charade aimed at hiding a stake in Maltex while still being able to make money off it. Zelensky has not mentioned Maltex in any of his public asset declarations, including one filed for 2018, when he still owned 25% of the company. Even by this point of this investigation, I was already thinking, why did I even decide to figure out all this information and all these details and links? But guys, now we reached the most important part. In that TV show, the fictional character, he was absolutely independent from oligarchs and he fought against them. But in real life, Zelensky was actually directly connected to one of Ukraine's most controversial oligarchs. He is now in prison for a massive bank fraud, Igor Kolomoisky, and I'll just read you a short piece from Wikipedia to give you a quick portrait of who he is. Igor Kolomoisky is a Ukrainian-born Israeli billionaire, businessman, once considered the leading oligarch in Ukraine. In 2019, Kolomoisky's media power and funding supported Vladimir Zelensky's successful presidential campaign to unseat Poroshenko. And if we scroll down, we can see a whole chapter, relationship with Vladimir Zelensky.
If you're a man of principles, yes, why are you working for a man who the anti-corruption authorities say has stolen all this money from the people of this country?
Все каналы у нас принадлежат олигархам. Все крупные предприятия принадлежат этим группам. Получается, что мы все люди в Украине, 40 миллионов людей без принципов, мы все работаем на этих предприятиях.
The oligarch Kolomoisky owned the 1+1 TV channel, and Zelensky's Ukrainian company Kvartal 95 signed a contract to air its shows on 1+1, including Servant of the People, which was broadcast during Zelensky's presidential campaign. According to the Ukrainian team that worked on the Pandora Papers, in 2012, the same year the contract was signed, Zelensky's offshore network began to expand. They found a single 1.2 million payment for Ukrainian show Make the Comedian Laugh. That went through offshore accounts, meaning no taxes were paid in Ukraine. And now we're almost at the end of this investigation. I didn't cover all of the details because there were a lot of stuff. If you wanna, guys, you can read everything and you can watch a nice YouTube video, because the Ukrainian team that worked on the Pandora Papers, they filmed a very lengthy video, like 1 hour, with all the details, and they have English subtitles. They actually were surprised that this video hit like 3 million views, because the journalist said, we didn't expect that people would be so interested in different like trust declarations, bank statements, because they really showed those real leaked documents related to Zelensky and his offshore network. And of course I remember that election. I was actually ill, but I was thinking to either vote for Zelensky because I really disliked his opponent. We already knew his opponent Poroshenko very well, and I don't know, maybe some people liked him, but I didn't. Or I was thinking maybe to vote against both, because we also have this option, you can vote against both candidates. But in the end, I just didn't vote. And the most intriguing part, I found it's the most intriguing part in the Pandora Papers, was one chart. I printed it out. I took it seriously. So this is how it looks like. Unfortunately, I can't, oh my gosh, my camera, okay, like this. So guys, I'll just show you it like this. $40 million were traveling all through different offshore companies, and they eventually reached all the owners of Maltex. Each received 10 million. Zelensky, Shefir brothers, and Yakovlev. The politician who published this chart was from Zelensky's opponent team, and when he did this, nobody really took this chart seriously, because he didn't prove any evidence to support it, and neither Kolomoisky nor Zelensky commented it. But he claimed that those 40 millions that eventually reached Zelensky and his business partners were those dirty money that Kolomoisky laundered. And it's interesting that when Pandora Papers happened, they found this chart, and they said that they didn't had enough records and documents to cover all of this. But some parts really matched, so the names of companies, some transactions, so partially, just some things are really the truth. But again, for now, nothing illegal has been proven. And if we think about $40 million, right, it's not that huge money when it comes to media business, because you know that show business is a very profitable business. But again, all these millions of dollars, all these offshore arrangements absolutely clash with that image that got Zelensky elected, with the image of a president of the people, just a humble, poor school teacher who is sick and tired of political elites and their millions offshore. And his character once said, I would like a school teacher to make as much as a president, and the president as much as a school teacher. I was actually pretty hesitant about making this video, because I understand that a lot of people who subscribe this channel, especially like 2 years ago, they usually view our current government as very democratic and decent. And partially it's because of Western media, because Western media didn't tell you that Zelensky wasn't just an actor, that he was a millionaire, a wealthy guy with a big media business, right? So for those guys who think that the Pandora Papers is Russian propaganda, you can actually find a lot of cases related to the Russian oligarchs, to the Russian president, and as well as many other different politicians from all over the world. And that's it for now. If you like this video, you can consider supporting this channel by buying me a coffee. And of course, I'll see you very soon from Kharkiv. And don't forget that corruption is only bad when we are not involved. Bye, guys.
So long.
This cannot be opened.
So you think that we talk too much about men dying at work?
No, that's not what I said. I
That's
think
what
that's
you
an
just- that's what you just said.
No, I think that's an oversimplification of my statement.
Okay. What do you think would be better issues to focus on?
I think that we need to focus on the things that are actually impacting Americans, like access to health care. Like I said, mandatory maternity leave and paternity leave. I would love if men got the opportunity to spend more time with their children and bond with them. I think that we need to address the housing crisis because now in the US, dual income educated households cannot afford to buy a home in average, on average in US cities. Like we have from healthcare to housing to childcare, we have so many issues that are worth talking about.
Well, if we're going to go into maternity leave, that's again, you want the freedom to have kids and you want the company to pay for it.
Yeah, like every other developed nation, because every other developed nation recognizes that the more that you invest in families, the better off you have, the better off you are as society as a whole.
Yeah, women aren't really having kids.
That's incorrect.
1 out of 3 women has had an abortion.
1 out of 4 will have an abortion in their lifetime, so it's a different statistic.
Okay, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4. Women have 1.2 kids, 1.5-ish.
Yeah, and 1 out of 4 women will also experience sexual assault in their lifetime. Do you want to talk about that, or?
We can talk about it. What's sexual assault?
What is sexual assault? Why don't you tell me?
You brought up the stat. You brought up the topic. I'm letting you go.
I think that it's interesting that I have to describe what sexual assault is, but essentially sexual assault is any like unwanted physical, I'm trying to think of a good way to describe this. So in a nuanced way, because it could be a violation of your bodily autonomy, essentially, is what it is.
Okay, so who decides if they felt violated?
The victim.
Okay, so it's up to the discretion of the victim because some people are more touchy than others. So some people are going to say something's a violation and some people would say something isn't, right?
So I just find that interesting that your automatic response is to belittle the experience of the victim.
Okay, you can find it interesting, but I'm asking you a question. So could you answer it?
I believe women and I believe victims.
Okay, every victim? So every woman you believe?
Again, nuance, Pearl. So if we're talking about things on a population level, and if we're talking about 1 in 4 women will experience this, then no, I can't say every single one because we're talking about millions.
Okay.
But the majority of them, yes, I believe them.
Okay, so how did they get this number? You brought up the stats. I'm asking you, how is it a survey?
It's multiple surveys, but yeah. And then
so we're just blindly believing what they say. How many filed a police report and actually convicted the guy?
So do you have any idea of how emotionally taxing it is to go through a criminal case? And not only that, not only
filed a police report.
I don't know the statistics on that, but I don't think that it's relevant because
this is the challenge we get is we just blindly believe women.
Yeah, I think that we should. I think that we should believe women who say that they've been assaulted because the Me Too movement shows you that it's so grossly prevalent in our society. And I think that you are belittling the impact that it has on the victim to go through the rape kit at an ER, to go through that physical assessment and to be violated further after your body's already been violated, and then to go through the entire criminal court process, which can take years, having to tell your story over and over and over. And I do not blame women in the slightest if they say, you know what, I don't want to put myself through that. I've gone through enough. I'm not going to further traumatize myself.
Yeah, I understand that. However, we have to believe the evidence. And so if you're going to tell me a story, we have to go through the evidence, which is only found in criminal court.
I disagree.
What do you mean you disagree? You think we should just blindly... Okay, like how far do we take that? Do men lose opportunities because a woman has a story and she didn't file charges?
I think
when women go on social media with no police report and tell stories where it's easy to identify the man, should they be allowed to do that with no repercussions? This would happen all the time. To like me when I was on my show, I interviewed 1,000 people. Women rarely file police reports.
Yeah,
and
because
usually,
it's traumatizing.
Yeah, no, but what I found was a little different. I used to kind of be more like you, where I would, when a girl...
Find nuance.
Not that, but...
Express empathy.
Not really. More so, usually I would think that women were telling the truth. Like when they would tell me someone abused them, someone assaulted them. The problem is, if you ask a couple questions, a lot of times their story falls apart. I'll give you an example. So there was a woman who said she had an abusive ex-boyfriend. She comes on my show and I asked her a couple questions. I said, okay, did you file a police report? She said, no. I said, okay. Comes to find out, she said that he shoved her down the stairs. That was her story. So I asked her, I said, okay, how did this come up? Like, how did this situation happen? And it turns out she was actually trespassing. So she wasn't supposed to be in his house, and he kept asking her to leave and she wouldn't leave. She had a romantic relationship with this guy and she was trying to fight with him in front of his kid. He didn't want to fight in front of the kid. He ends up pushing her out, not trying to push her down the stairs, but he's trying to get her to leave. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And she claims abuse. I think that's a little bit overblown. Would you agree with that in that specific story?
So that is anecdotal evidence.
No, I know, that's totally fine.
When
That's
we're
totally fine.
when
But I'm
we're-
saying in good faith, could you agree with me? I want you to understand why I think this way.
I will agree with the premise that these are complex issues that should be looked at holistically.
Totally fine.
And so I think that it's interesting that when I bring up believing women, I'm ultimately saying we should believe anecdotal evidence. Like, we should believe women's account of what they are experiencing, especially when these stories are corroborated on a population level. And then in counter, you give me anecdotal evidence that shows.
Totally fine. I totally understand. But I just want you to go with me on this, and you can disregard it later. Okay?
That's not how I.
Totally fine. But I'm asking you, in that case, do you agree with me that that was overblown?
No,
For her
because
to- okay.
because I don't know the details of the case. It's a he said, she said.
I know, but can we in good faith just agree that I'm telling you the truth? It's fine.
I agree that you're telling me the truth, but not that you've been told the entire truth.
Okay, but assuming those facts are correct, would you agree that's overblown?
Assuming those facts that you gave me are correct, yes, in that one particular instance, sure.
Totally fine. What I found, and I'm just explaining how I came to these conclusions, was that normally when I would ask women to give me more details about their story, there was something they left out that, many times women would say he hit me, but she hit him first, and they would leave that out. Sorry. We had a woman who started the first men's abuse. Her name's Erin Pizzi. She started the first men's abuse center in the UK. And she dealt with both men and women that were abused. And most abuse is mutual, meaning they're hitting each other. So that's the majority of cases. And what I found is women would often leave out the other side. They would say they were assaulted, and they wouldn't put the other side of the story.
And?
No, I'm just explaining how I came to this conclusion.
Yeah, so the people...
I understand it's anecdotal, but, just like you've come to some conclusions because you anecdotally going through the medical system, that was how you came to those conclusions. I'm telling you how I came to mine.
Okay. And so I think ultimately we end up with my conclusion, which is we should look at each of these cases holistically and with nuance and recognize that these are complex issues that just can't be given a black and white solution or scenario.
Well, my point is we have to go based on the evidence, and the only way we can go on evidence is in criminal court.
I disagree with that. Because, as I've said, it is incredibly traumatizing and taxing to go through the criminal process. So I think, unfortunately, we are left to anecdotal evidence when it comes to a lot of these cases.
Right, but how do you know if somebody is lying?
You don't.
Yeah, and again, this is going back to, you want to be able to accuse men of anything, and we just have to believe women, and the men just have to take it. And that's how so many men get falsely accused on college campuses and in the workplace.
Do you know the statistics of when they've analyzed these issues and when they've analyzed these claims, how many turn out to be false?
Well, there's a lot of stats people throw around. I don't know which ones you're going to bring up, but you go ahead.
Around 2 to 8%. The highest that I can find is 8%.
And how did they come to that conclusion?
Through both, if you're not going to look at criminal evidence, a lot of times they'll corroborate it with friends and family. They'll corroborate it with instances at the workplace, things like that.
Okay, well, I the majority of cases that are brought to police are not prosecuted, meaning that they don't have the evidence to prosecute them.
Yeah, because it's incredibly hard unless you have a video camera in every room of your house to have evidence.
I highly doubt that this survey got better evidence than the police.
So that's actually incorrect, because you're comparing things like civil and criminal instances, right? Because something where a man is going to lose his position at a job, or where he's going to whatever it may be, that's different from like a criminal accusation. And the bar for criminal accusation is so much higher. And you're going to need things like video evidence and transcripts and all these things, which are going to be incredibly difficult to have when you're living in the real world, where like abuse doesn't happen in front of a camera.
Don't you think that the bar should be high to accuse someone of a crime that's that serious?
Criminally.
You don't think so civilly too?
No.
Don't we want to be sure that the person is guilty?
Well, like you say, I live in the real world, and it's just not realistic to have that amount of evidence when a lot of times abuse happens behind closed doors. Where are you going to get the evidence from?
Easy. If you're getting hit by a guy, you're going to have a black eye or something. Are you crazy? Do you know how strong men are?
Also,
holy shit. Like, I'm serious. Like, I played sports, and I got elbowed once by accident from a guy. And I had a black eye for weeks. It's simple, easy. If you're getting beat by a guy, you are going to, there's no way you will not have marks.
Physical abuse is only one kind of abuse, first of all. There's many different kinds of abuse. Second of all, men are a lot smarter than that, and a lot of them know to not leave visible evidence. But
What percent of men do you think are abusive?
I would be throwing out a random number. I couldn't even tell you how many men are
You just
abusive.
make it seem like it's everywhere.
Well,
like, if all these women are saying they're assaulted, wouldn't that mean a good percent of men are assaulting women?
Yeah, I mean, if 1 in 4 women will experience assault in their lifetime, then I would argue that 1 in 4 men could potentially be abusers, if you want to like correlate the two statistics. But also 90% of violent crime in our country is committed by men. So it really isn't
only because you don't count
Do you want to talk about it?
We can, but not really.
It sounds like it because
I'm pro-life, but like I know you're not, and it's not.
I mean, but if you're going to equate to violent crime, I think that deserves a response.
Okay, well, I mean, I view abortion as a child, and I know you don't, so.
That's not true.
Okay, go ahead.
I view
like I view it from the moment of conception as a child.
I do as well.
Oh, you just think the woman should be able to kill the kid?
I think that it is her body, and if she does not want to or cannot endure pregnancy, it is her choice to do so.
So you view it as a kid? I thought you'd view it as a fetus, no?
I mean, it is a fetus, but I view it as a human fetus who will eventually develop into a child.
Okay, what point for you?
Well, you gain personhood when you enter into the world, so at birth.
So you would allow abortions up to birth?
No.
Okay, what point for you?
So
I actually think conservatives should negotiate on this and just find a point.
Yeah.
And just like stop fighting. So I'm just curious what the point would be. I would, by the way, I want to clarify. Morally, I think it's wrong, but I'm trying to be realistic in 2025. 3 months. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I think 3 months is a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
But I will say, so I've been asked this question a lot.
I'd even bargain and say 4. Can we just stop fighting? 4?
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's wrong, and I want to say I think it's wrong. It's just I think there's bigger, like, you're not going to win that issue, so.
Yeah, I agree, because it's a nuanced issue. So the issue is, so for me, I don't think that there is a reasonable timeline to initiate a ban, because most abortions happen within the pre 3 to 4 month mark. So if you want to do a ban at that time, sure. But what happens after that 3 to 4 month mark, a lot of times those abortions happen because of complex physical, medical, or life circumstances. And so in my professional opinion, and what I've seen happen in the hospital, and when I talk to real life people, I recognize that abortions that happen later in gestation are typically very complicated, and they have a lot of consideration and a lot of reason for them to happen. So to put a ban there is only going to further harm people who are facing an impossible choice. So it might sound good philosophically, and it might sound good like, oh, let's just put an arbitrary number at, 20 weeks or whatever. But realistically, if you do that, you are targeting people who are already suffering something extremely difficult.
Right, but for me, it would be easier to just say this is the point, other than extreme circumstances. Like if someone's very sick, dying, fine. I'm just wondering if you had. I'm just wondering where for you'd put it for the majority can't get it after.
So and
most pro-choice people, I don't think most want people to be allowed to abort the day before the kid's born, right?
And people aren't.
Right, I understand they're not, but I'm saying most pro-choice people would agree. So I'm saying, like, hypothetically, neither of us have any political power, so it's like, it's hypothetical. Where would the point be for you?
For me, hypothetically, it would be at the limit of viability, which is around 21 to 24 weeks, about.
Okay. Would you compromise at 4 months?
I don't see any reason to.
You wouldn't?
I mean...
You won't meet in the middle? Like the pro-life?
No, I would. I mean,
I'm pro-life, meaning I want 0. That's where I want. But I'm saying, hey, I'd meet you in the middle so we can just stop these protests at abortion.
But the thing is, like, I don't see the
4
reason.
4 months, no protests will go away.
No, because I don't think the protests would.
I know
go away.
they won't. But
yeah,
like, I'm
like
trying to be reasonable here.
Right. Well, me too. And the thing for me is like being reasonable is recognizing that pregnant people are people, and that their lives and medical conditions are complex. So we could like make it easy for the sake of argument, but making it easy for the sake of argument is putting impossible choices and barriers in front of people who are already facing an impossible choice.
Could you humor me?
I said the limit of viability.
Okay,
if I was
fine.
to pick a point, it would be the limit of viability, which like you could say 21 weeks or something.
Okay. I'd go a little. I'd probably try to wiggle you down a little bit if I had any political power. Well, because me, like I view it as, for me personally, if I could have whatever I wanted, I would want it to be illegal. Okay. I see that as unrealistic. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I know we got Roe versus Wade, but the number of abortions increased after that. I think it's like a losing issue for conservatives, and we should focus on other things. That's a really unpopular opinion for a conservative, but I've watched like the pro-life movement argue for like a decade, and I don't really see them getting much. I know the conservatives see Roe versus Wade as like that's the last win they're ever gonna have in my lifetime. That's the way I view it. So to me, I think, okay, it's not really worth losing like political support for conservatives. Let's just make a deal with them. Let's find a point that maybe they're a little bit unhappy, we're a little bit unhappy, but let's make a deal and move on. Like that's how I view it. Conservatives don't agree with me. I don't think liberals do either, because nobody wants to like if conservatives want 0 and some liberals want like 6 months, let's say, okay, let's meet in the middle at 3, 4, and then just stop arguing. I know that's like very idealistic. That'll never happen, but if this was Pearl's world, this is, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I do appreciate that perspective.
Yeah,
because especially coming from like a pro-life conservative, I do appreciate the ability to be flexible on that point.
I don't know why you're here.
Tim Pool has a fascinating new debate. I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I've seen portions, but people are asking me to take a look at it. So let's get in.
Well, you don't know what you're talking about.
I don't?
You don't. Because I asked you a question, you've ignored it. What is the underlying crime?
He was convicted in a court of law, Tim.
What? Oh my God. What is the underlying crime?
What is the underlying crime?
Okay, let's stop.
And this is the pattern. I'm just going to say the most surface level statement, and I'm just going to make that statement over and over again without knowing anything else.
To everybody who's listening, I think my point is, I can tell you the facts of these cases and why I have doubts, and you don't know anything about them.
So here's a fact. Donald Trump is a 34-count felon.
They intentionally word it that way, as though Trump was convicted of 34 felonies, but it's felony counts. When you actually look at the 34 felony counts, it's truly shocking. Invoice from Michael Cohen, entry in the detail, another entry, oh, another check stub. But this one has a different bearing number, so that's gonna be a whole new count. Okay, entry, check, invoice, entry, check, invoice, and it says guilty next to each one, and people are acting as though that means he was guilty of 34 felonies. It was one action.
What was the underlying crime?
The problem I have...
Answer the fucking question.
What was the underlying
yes.
crime? 34 counts.
Of what?
Okay, falsifying business records was
underlying crime, name it.
I don't have it right in front of me.
There isn't one.
Okay.
The crime was he gave money to a woman and tried not to make that public. That's what he's accused of.
But, okay, so you're saying that the judge got it wrong, the jury got it wrong, he had the right to defend
himself. For the love of all
that
is holy, this is the problem with this country.
They all got it wrong.
What was he charged with? Just give me the sentence. Give me the single phrase.
What I know is that he was a 34-count felon convicted.
Oh, my God!
That's what I know.
What was he charged with?
I don't have the case right in front of me.
You don't know?
I don't have the case right in
front of me. You are in a cult.
It's already a stretch just to even call him a felon. They say the 34 count portion because it sounds good linguistically.
You can disagree with it, but well, you can say incorrect till the cows come home. He wasn't sentenced, but he was convicted on 34 felony counts. Now, you can disagree with that. Okay, you can disagree.
Name the crime.
That's fine.
Name the crime.
You don't have to name the crime.
Yes, you do.
34-count felon.
You have to name the crime.
Okay, well, listen.
So, again, I will say it to the audience. He doesn't even know what the charge was. He doesn't know who was accused of falsifying what.
I named you a few. I don't have all 34 charges in front of me.
The 34 are pieces of evidence to back up a claim. And this check has a different number on it, so that's going to give us another count, and then this invoice was on a different date.
But it doesn't, just because I can't name the charges.
Wouldn't it be prudent of you to actually investigate these things before parroting them to a large audience?
I'm not parroting them. All I'm simply
saying... You can't even explain what your position is.
Just because, okay, here's
what did Trump... Okay, let me try this. Let me try this. Let's slow down. What do you think Trump did wrong in that case?
Sleeping with a porn star. Let's assume he did that. That would be the thing that you shouldn't do.
You're talking about E. Jean Carroll, or are you talking about...
No, the business records case. What did he do wrong?
Well, falsifying business records was what he was charged with.
No, what specifically did he do wrong?
What specific?
What do you take
falsifying
issue?
Records? Falsifying records?
Which records? I'm asking you the specifics of what did you find that he did wrong?
Here's my point.
You don't have an answer for it?
I'm going to answer it for you.
Are you going to give me a specific example, or are you going to change the subject again?
I'm not changing the subject. We're talking about this.
So what did Trump do wrong? Say Trump did thing. Tell me.
Okay. Here's the answer that I'm going to give you. I don't know all the ins and outs of this case.
Well, then why are we talking?
And this is the vast majority of people are going to have the same response. They're not even going to know what 34 counts means.
Here's what I do know. Regardless of what your opinions are on the case, and what you might think are valid that he didn't do anything wrong, what you might think are valid that he never sexually abused a woman, here's the bottom line, whether you like it or not. A jury found him guilty on 34 counts that you obviously disagree with. Whether I know the ins and outs of the case is irrelevant.
You don't know anything beyond he was found guilty. That's it. That's all you have.
Yep. The fact of the matter is that he is a 34-count felon. The fact of the matter is that he's a liable sexual abuser. Liable.
Is there any evidence beyond a woman pointing a finger and saying, yeah, 20 years ago he did this to me? If not, then at the end of the day, the jury is just determining, do we believe her or not?
Tell me about the E. Jean Carroll case.
Because a jury found him liable for sexual abuse. I don't have to know everything about the case.
I will hear a claim and I will fact check it.
Sure.
And try and dig through the facts to see if there's merit. You will believe what you're told.
The envelope is passed to the judge. The question, did the jury find Trump guilty of R-wording E. Jean Carroll? They said no. Was he guilty of assaulting her? Well, yes. Okay, but according to her story, he R-worded her. If that's the only evidence to go on, why did they accept this portion of the story but not this portion?
He's not yet a felon until he's sentenced.
He wasn't sentenced. I've said that multiple times. A jury convicted him on 34 felony counts.
Of what?
Again, there you go back again, trying to quiz me on what the...
Okay, here's my point.
That's the only point
I don't know why you're here.
This is not about defending Trump. This is about getting it right. And there are patterns here that are very strange.
I don't know what you mean.
We're not debating.
Okay, well,
like a debate's like this. Donald Trump did a backflip, and here's why it was wrong. Well, actually, backflips have been long protected. I'm saying Donald Trump was accused of these specific things, and you say, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, then we're not having a debate.
No.
You're just saying I read in the news Trump was convicted, and I say, okay.
This is the motivation for playing the game in this way, because then it gives people the ammunition that you're seeing him use. It gives them this language. Well, all I know is he was found guilty. What was he guilty of? I don't know the details, but he was found guilty. He's a 34-count felon. That sounds really bad. It sounds like he did 34 felonies.
When an individual is convicted of a crime, it is prudent of a society to analyze whether or not this is a legitimate use of the judiciary, of our legal system.
So you don't like people that accuse other people of things.
And the point I'm making is, I don't believe law dictates morality. I don't believe just because something is legal, it is correct. And I don't blindly trust when an authority figure says, trust me, this person's bad.
If what happened to Brett Kavanaugh was false, we have seen a pattern of what people are willing to do and how dirty this game can get. That moment was a turning point.
So in the issue of Donald Trump in New York, he was not actually legitimately charged under any crime, and it's unprecedented in U.S. history. Trump was charged under 34 counts of misdemeanor, falsification of business records with no underlying crime. They then said, okay, I guess, upgrade it to a felony. Everybody said, well, hold on a minute. This is why it's currently in appeal. Because Trump was never actually charged with the underlying crime required for an aggravated charge. It's never happened before.
I did not know about that portion, that it's being appealed for that reason. If that's true, that is remarkable.
You don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
It is one of the most controversial cases in U.S. history, where for the first time, an aggravated charge was placed without the government proving an underlying case. They upgraded misdemeanors, which require an underlying crime, but they never proved a crime actually happened.
Then why couldn't his attorneys prove that in a court of law?
They did!
I was talking also about the moralities of the case, and you were asking me about E. Jean Carroll. And while I don't want to go into the details of that case...
Of course you don't. But the details are what matter in that case.
I wasn't there.
And you don't know either.
Okay, but he was...
I do.
Again, it goes back to what I said earlier.
What was he accused of doing?
He was found liable for sexual...
What does that mean? What
Judge
did he do?
Characterized it as penetrating her with his fingers. A jury found that he was liable. Now, I wasn't there. You weren't there. But here's what I do know.
What year did it take place?
I don't recall. It was many years ago.
I haven't even seen the whole thing, but from what I've seen, people are already attacking Tim, the predictable actors, claiming he's just being too oriented in the details. This is nonsensical. It's like, no, these details actually do matter when you're talking about cases like this.
Let me ask you this question. How was it that E. Jean Carroll was able to bring a case 30 years after the fact?
You're asking me how?
It's very important to the case.
Okay, well,
it's actually a key component.
So by your argument, Bill Cosby's never raped anybody before.
I think that's unfair. He's pointing out that that is a significant window of time. There could still be evidence. In Bill Cosby's case, I believe there is actual evidence beyond just one person making a claim.
I asked you a question.
And by your logic, because it was 30 years ago, it couldn't have happened? Why are you asking me that?
You're changing the subject again.
No, you're asking me 30 years.
I think the issue is you're so ignorant on these issues.
I don't think I'm ignorant at all.
Yes, ignorant people often do not think they are ignorant.
And I'm asking you the details because you don't know. I presume you don't know, and that's why you hold this position.
Okay, all I said to you, and you want to quiz me on these cases, but all
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, Tim, is he a liable sexual abuser? Yes or no?
No.
See, notice these words. You, sir, are a liable sexual abuser. It's like most people don't even know what liable means. You are a 34-count felon. Most people don't know what 34 counts means.
So he's not a felon. He's not a liable sexual abuser.
Oh, well, actually, let me clarify. If I get 3 guys to come in here with badges on and they say you're a rapist, are you a rapist?
His point is that the system can be flawed, can be weaponized.
If I'm found liable in a court of law, I could be liable for sexual abuse.
What if a judge brought the case illicitly? Meaning it wasn't actually able to be brought into a court, but he did anyway.
Okay. I know where you're going with this.
Where am I going?
And well, you're making the case that's what happened here in the E. Jean Carroll case.
I'm trying to suss out your moral worldview on when do you determine that an act of the judiciary is not actually legal?
If that's proven. If it could be proven that way.
If the question is, did Trump, in a legitimate setting, face these claims and convictions? The answer is no, and I can break it all down fact by fact, detail by detail. Specifically with the E. Jean Carroll case, there's numerous factors as to why this is meritless.
Yes, there are certainly holes in her story, if we're being objective. The big question is still, is there any evidence beyond one individual's word?
E. Jean Carroll's story made literally no sense. She claimed to have been wearing clothes that didn't exist. She claimed to have access to rooms that she did not have access to. And Trump, the most famous man in New York, instead of going into his hotel across the street from the Bergdorf Goodman, went into a crowded building where there was no one for this one period for no reason. None of it made sense, and we can sit here and say, well, that story is certainly strange, but why did she claim to have clothes that didn't come? Why was she claiming to wearing clothes that didn't even exist at the time? A specific dress that wasn't released until years later. More importantly, she didn't have a key to that room, nor did Trump. And she also said the Bergdorf Goodman, one of the busiest stores in New York, had no people in it.
So
you then say, I find that all to be credible.
Goodbye.
I never said that.
So why would you agree with this stuff?
The only thing that I said, Tim, was that he is a liable sexual abuser.